Morning, everybody. Thank you so much for coming this morning to the Niagara Association of Realtors. I'm Brenda O'Lacey, the Vice President of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, as well as Director of Government Affairs. Along with our CEO, John Leonardi, we appreciate you all being here. I want to recognize our dedicated members of the DEI Committee. We have a very robust group. They're loyal and dedicated, and many of them have taken time to come this morning. Also, I want to thank some of our elected officials who have come this morning and appreciate their time as well. And to the members of the media, it's always good to see you, and thank you for your time. It's an honor to introduce you to our 2023 President, Rosalind Bergen, who will unveil our video series. By the way, the videos that we show are very brief, but I want you to take a look at them, and then we will offer you the opportunity to comment right after. And without further ado, Rosalind Bergen.
Real. Good morning and welcome. Welcome you. Thank you for taking the time out of your day. So the Buffalo Niagara Association of Realtors is proud to be one of the first associations who have unveiled these videos. Our CEO came up with this concept, and then Brenda and John together kind of wrote the scripts. But the videos that you'll see do depict real situations that realtors have faced in the community and with other realtors. Unfortunately, in this day and time, we still face discrimination, not just race discrimination, but also religion, sexual orientation, national origin. So these videos, our thought is that they will help us to understand what's going on in the community, what we face, what realtors face, and hopefully increase the level of awareness so that we can start to see changes and move that needle. With that, we'll roll our first video.
Hello and welcome. My name is Brenda O'Lacey. I'm the Vice President of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion for the Buffalo Niagara Association of Realtors. I'm here with Tamika Collins-Murphy, who is a 10-year veteran of the real estate industry. We recently produced a video about racism in the real estate industry, and we'd like you to take a look at this very brief video.
Hi, Tamika.
Hi, Brenda. It's Tamika, the agent. So I just wanted to let you know I'm pulling up to 123 Main Street. I'll be there in a few seconds.
Sounds great. Thanks so much. I'm right behind you. I should be there in about 2 minutes.
Okay, see you then. Hi, Brenda. I'm here. I just pulled up into the driveway, so you should be able to see me when you arrive. Oh, wait. The police are here.
What are you doing here?
Officer, I'm waiting to show my client a home.
Could I see some ID?
Officer, my name is Tamika. I'm a real estate agent, and I'm waiting to show my client a home. Hi, Brenda.
Hi, Tamika.
Are you okay?
Yes, of course I'm okay. Why would you ask?
We've had some suspicious characters in the neighborhood.
This is Tamika. She's my real estate agent. She's here to show me this home.
It may be 2022, but there is still blatant and inexcusable racism happening in our community. The difference between what happens to white agents versus agents of color on a routine basis, even now, is not acceptable. Racism rears its ugly head between realtors, too. If you have been a victim of this type of overt discrimination, please contact the association office.
Tamika, what we just watched is pretty jarring. Is that an accurate reenactment of what happens to you on a regular basis?
Well, that's a soft reenactment, Brenda. So, but it's pretty close to what happens to myself and so many other agents. color and ethnic backgrounds.
This is not just an isolated incident, though, is it?
No, this happens very often. Like you mentioned, I've been in the business a little over 10 years, and multiple times a year, something like this happens to myself or an agent that I may know in the business.
So we saw the police officer come up to you rather aggressively in this video, and once you explained who you were, everybody sort of calmed down a little bit, but what kind of reaction do you get from law enforcement officers when they confront you like that?
Well, a lot of times, Brenda, and if we're going to have an open dialogue about this, a lot of times 85% of my business is African American. In this video, you were my client at this point, so that video was a little softer than what's normally dealt with. If I'm showing an African American client, a police officer isn't as nice to either myself or the client at that point in the video.
So it makes a difference if your client is white or a person of color?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
What does the police officer generally say once you explain what you're doing?
Well, the first question is, we got a call from either a neighbor or someone that lives in the house, and the second question is always, what are you doing in this area?
It's interesting you say that, Tamika, because it's not just police officers who come up to you in these settings. It's often people who live in that neighborhood, right?
Oh yeah, the neighbors are the toughest ones that we would have to deal with, and so often when neighbors express how they feel, it's the truth, it's the honest truth, and a lot of times when police officers are called, we as agents or my clients would think that the officers are coming to deflect what's going on, but so often it's the opposite, and we find that police officers are often on the neighbors or the homeowner side, and they want to know the same questions.
Do you ever have officers of color in this situation?
Depending on where we're showing a home. So we currently live in Western New York, so if we're in Amherst, 9 times out of 10 there's no officers of color, or if we're in a suburban area, no officers of color. No.
You've been in this business for a decade now, Tamika. Does it make you discouraged when it comes to showing properties in traditional white neighborhoods?
Oftentimes it does. It's a situation where you can never be prepared, and as a black agent, we're never prepared as to what may happen given current events that happens in America. Often, we're pulled over for being black. We're oftentimes murdered for being black, or going to the store, or drugging, or just sleeping in our homes, and it never prepares us for what's going to happen. So a lot of times we're on pins and needles, and the conversations are different when we're going into suburban areas.
When you're out and about doing your job as a realtor, do you feel like you always have to have an identification badge on?
Absolutely. So identification badge, the cards, the real estate cards, you always want to show something showing, even business cards, showing that and identifying yourself as a real estate agent.
And you often sometimes even have a vehicle with the placard of your company on there, right?
Yes.
And even so, all of that, you're standing in front of a property with an open house or a for sale sign, it still happens.
It still happens.
Last question for you.
Okay.
How can things change? What do you think needs to happen to make things change?
Well, I always tell, and I tell my agents, and I even tell my kids, racism is taught. And I just feel that the more we speak out about it, and the more we make an issue of the issues that we deal with, more real estate agents, more brokerages would see what's happening, and hopefully a change is made just by putting the situations in front and making everyone feel uncomfortable.
Actually, this is my last question, Tamika. You put yourself out here and you're talking with us, you agree to be in the video, It can't be easy. What,
It's not.
what motivated you to do this?
It's not easy, Brenda, but what motivates me is the change that I hope to see at some point, not only in the real estate industry, but in America. Just putting my personal situations out there. And I'm quite sure if you ask any other agent of color or brown and black agent or any agent of a different background than me that has experienced racism, they'll tell you the same thing. It's not easy, but if we want to see change happen, then we need to speak about it, and we need to speak up, and we need to, we need to let everyone feel uncomfortable, so that if it does happen, and if it's happening from someone that has seen a video, they'll think twice about what they say and how they say it. And I'm hoping, police officers at some point will go through some type of trainings on how to deal with different people and different cultures.
Thank you so much for being here, Tamika.
Thank you, Brenda.
So Tamika, who is so brave in doing this, is here with us today, in case Eileen, in case you or Jim want to interview her. And our next video features Craven Weeks, who also graciously came today as well.
Tamika's message is enormous, but the attitude of racism was not coming through from Tamika, nor was it coming through from her client, Brenda Lacey. It was coming from Mr. Police Officer, who we all know and love as Dan Lockheed. But
He just blew his cover.
yeah, just blew his cover. But
That was my husband in the video playing.
But I'm wondering for future videos if we would be bold enough to invite someone from law enforcement into the conversation to maybe help reverberate the attitude that we're experiencing.
Right.
Yeah, so to that end, we've actually invited
Chief Tom Dina, who represents Sheriff Garcia, and at the last minute, the chief had to bail out.
Oh, to the conversation
Yeah.
today.
He was supposed to be
Okay.
here today, and he was at our December 5th forum that some of you attended at the Old Millennium Hotel. So he did hear about a lot of what's going on here, and we played the videos there too. But I would ask our elected officials, perhaps, or any of you, if you could help me get in touch with some high-ranking police or law enforcement personnel so that we can show this to them. I would greatly appreciate it.
Can I just follow up on that comment? I think
Do you
that's
wanna
a great
identify
idea.
yourself?
Oh, Assemblymember Monica Wallace. I just want to follow up on that. I think that's a great idea, but I also think it's really important, and I applaud you for doing this segment, because it's important to let the public, make the public more aware as well, right? Obviously, somebody called the police. And that's part, so addressing it with law enforcement is only a piece of the problem. The problem is also the public recognizing that, they shouldn't call the police in those situations.
Sign in the yard.
Right.
Sign in the yard,
Or
sign
just
in
jump
the
to a
car.
conclusion, automatically jump to a conclusion that there's something amiss, just because they see us, an unknown person in their neighborhood.
Many agents of color have told me that they always have their badge on. A lot of white agents don't. I mean, I don't want to speak for agents of color. You chime in.
Well, absolutely. Yeah. I'm always aware of my environment, even, because I prepare. I'm like, okay, let me make sure that there's some obvious signs that I am a realtor before I walk on any property. I don't care where it is, just in case I run into somebody who is not welcoming.
it takes the whole community to talk about this, and we have pockets that are doing that, but we have to have louder voices. And as a side note, when we were first previewing this video and Tamika was in the office, as she left the office in her car, she got pulled over. She wasn't speeding, she did not use her directional, and it was so surreal that she had just left after looking at this video that she randomly gets pulled over by an Amherst police officer. Now, that's not to say the police are all, doing this constantly, but change needs to happen. And this is the first step that we as an association with the leadership to make awareness and educate, so.
Hello, I'm Brenda Alesi, Vice President of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion at the Buffalo Niagara Association of Realtors. We recently shot a video about a realtor who experienced racism from another realtor. Take a look at our video.
Wow, this would be perfect for what my clients are looking for. Hey, good morning.
Good morning. Mind signing in for me?
Oh, here, I'm an agent.
Oh, do you mind still signing in?
Oh, okay.
Thanks. Come on in.
Are you following me?
No, I just want to make sure you see your way around.
Okay, you know I'm an agent though, right?
Yeah, totally fine. Just want to make sure I'm here if you have any questions.
I've seen a lot of houses. I know my way around, so.
Totally fine.
Are you not supposed to be still waiting for others to come in?
No, it's okay. I'll get back to them.
Okay, I just thought it was an open house. Okay, all right, thanks.
Realtors of color experience discrimination all too often, even by other agents in our region. If you've been a victim of this type of overt discrimination, contact the association office.
Well, here's the gentleman himself who was in the video, Craven Weeks. Craven has been in the real estate industry for 5 years. Craven, welcome. It's good to have you with us.
Thank you.
Now, we just watched this reenactment, and I want to ask you, how accurate was it?
It's pretty accurate. Other than the house itself, most of it was almost exactly how it transpired. You know, I walked up to the property, and actually before I walked up to the property, I was watching individuals walk into the property from the garage entrance of this raised ranch and seeing how he interacted with them. So when I walked up, I expected the same type of response from him.
You know, and there you are walking up, you have a badge on, it clearly identifies you as a realtor.
Correct.
You're dressed professionally, and as you approach, you're the only one out of all the people who went into that house who was asked to sign in by the white realtor.
Correct.
How often does that happen?
It actually happens frequently, but I never chalk it up to any racism or something. Sometimes it may be an inexperienced realtor or somebody being just overly cautious, you know, especially during the pandemic times. So it was more surprising what transpired afterwards.
And in that case, you're referring to all of the white people who were in the house who walked around freely and nobody followed them.
Correct.
And then all of a sudden you come in and this white gentleman is following you.
Yes.
Which became apparent to you pretty quickly.
Yeah, at first I was pointed out the different rooms in the lower level, which is, you know, normal. But then when he followed me to one of those rooms to explain some things, I kind of was like, you know, okay, I got it, because I've experienced looking at homes all the time. And then when I proceeded to go upstairs, he was following behind me, and I found that kind of strange because he was posted up in the garage with a sign-in sheet expecting other open house people to come in. So it started to get a little strange from there.
And that's typically what would happen at an open house, right? He wouldn't be wandering around following anybody?
No, he wouldn't. I mean, an open house is just that. It's open for individuals, whether by themselves or with an agent or an agent alone to come through.
Craven, when you did turn around and say something to him, you were very calm. You didn't raise your voice. How do you maintain your composure in those situations?
Well, I don't first try to look at things as, you know, there's a problem first. I could be perceiving it wrong. So I want to make sure that, you know, I would stay calm and collected and make sure that I'm not just imagining things. So then, you know, once it gets a little bit more obvious, then I'm start to get a little bit concerned. But then at that time, you know, I still want to make sure that I be professional throughout the whole situation.
And did you expect him to say, oh no, I'm not following you?
I expected that, yes. But I was more so saying, you know, if there was something that he needed from me, then, you know, that's why I kind of opened the door for him to say, no, there's, you know, I wanted to get from downstairs or I wanted to do some other things. But he said, you know, he wasn't following me. But when I seen the 8 to 10 other people upstairs by themselves, no other agent, I started to say, well, you know, there's a little bit difference here. There's some problems going on.
You know, for folks who might see this, they might have to watch it a couple times because it's kind of subtle racism at play.
Right.
It isn't really overt racism. Would you agree with that?
I would say that that's correct in a manner because it was more, you know, he followed me through, and then when I asked him questions, he answered in a polite way, but like I said, his actions spoke louder. And the situation that I experienced, I actually thought to myself, when I go and look at the bedrooms, if he follows me in there, then that is a very clear sign that he's following me through the house, especially when there's other people that he could be speaking with.
At the end, you kind of shake your head, like, you know, and roll your eyes. And so does that give you pause to go to other open houses?
Yeah, it gives me more awareness to go to other houses, just make sure that, you know, I don't want to be disrespected in any kind of way based on somebody else's bias. So I just make sure I maintain my integrity all the time, though. There's no need for me to get angry about the situation. You know, it's irritating, maybe annoying, but it's more so a situation that can be resolved from my perspective very simply.
What do you say to other agents, Craven, people of color or people of other protected classes who are realtors who may be experiencing this kind of subtle or even overt racism?
Well, I would tell them to maintain their calm first and always be professional no matter what, because then you have avenues for help in situations like this.
And do you think that there's any way we can stop this from happening? Is it just education, awareness, videos like this to bring it to people's attention who may have no clue that this type of stuff happens?
Yeah, I think it's a good idea to make other agents that may be biased or racist in any kind of way, just make them aware to be respectful to people, even though they have a prejudice from whatever reason, for whatever reason. Just be respectful at the time. And it's not just agents, but in these cases, you can resolve that unless you're not being let in to a house because of certain biases and prejudice, or you might not be given the same respect based on your skin color.
You've worked in other jobs. You've got 5+ years in the real estate industry. This won't stop you from working in the real estate industry, will it?
Absolutely not. I am, like I said, I just become more aware and more, I would say, vigilant in the things I'm doing as far as for my customers, for my clients. I want to make sure that I get the job done, but I still avoid some of the dangers or prejudices of others and still maintain my integrity.
Craven Weeks, a member of the Buffalo Niagara Association of Realtors, thank you so much for being in our video and for your candid comments today.
You're welcome. Thank you. You know, the camera puts 20 pounds on you.
I would love to get your feedback on video number 2, but I'd be remiss if I didn't ask our elected officials who came in a little bit later if they would please identify themselves.
Hi, I'm Assemblymember Monica Wallace. I represent Cheektowaga, Lancaster, and a little bit of the east side of Buffalo.
And I'm Karen McMahon. I'm also an Assembly member, and I represent the town of Amherst.
I'm April Baskin. I serve as the chairperson of the Erie County Legislature. I represent East and West Buffalo.
My name is Michael Kearns. I'm the Erie County Clerk, and I represent all of Erie County, and I commend you for what you're doing today.
So, are there any questions?
Thank you. I'm representing Mayor Brown. Howie Green, I'm the Director of Real Estate for the City of Buffalo.
All right.
Just want to, that was a good rendition. But I've been in this business for over 30 years, and I've seen quite a bit. And one of the things that we have also to deal with is not just the agents, but it is also some of the homeowners, literally. And so that depicts one area of it. But there was times when I would go to a property, and I would take my client, which was predominantly black, to an Amherst property, and we would go look, and the people would, come out of their car and come into the house. But prior to us, the people would sit in their car. If it was a white person going in with a white agent. So they would come in, and I'm let them know what I am. I have my code and everything else, and show them. And they say, okay, no problem. So they come in, and they'll come in and they'll walk around. They'll sit there. They'll try to act like they're not paying attention to us, but they do it too. So it's it is not just educating our agents, but also educate the public, because they do the same thing. It's the same process. And so when we leave, they'll go back in their car. And so one time I just sat there and waited. The next person came in with a white agent, and it was a white person. They sat in their car, not a problem.
I wonder if we were at the same house.
And so, you look at it like, okay, it's just foolishness of individuals. So you kind of let it slide. But I am proud of the agents now, Tamika and different ones now, who are literally saying that enough is enough. Actually speaking out and really put themselves out there and doing something about it, because it does need to change. Because it does, after all this time, make us feel like, I don't want to do this anymore. It's like, why I got to deal with this? It's like I keep dealing with it. It is kind of disheartening. So, I am glad that the association is putting forth an effort to make this public, so that people we can't stop it, because you can't stop individuals, they can be who they are. But we can make the public more aware and agents more aware, and then we can report it more and stand up and report it instead of just being silent. So I thank everyone for being part of this.
Thank you, Ronnie. And that's why I so appreciate Eileen Buckley and Lou from Channel 7 being here, Jim Fink from Business First. Excuse me, we have to get the word out. And I beg you just to help us get the word out. Charlene?
Brenda, I just want, you alluded to it earlier when you were speaking, but, as a manager for a long time, I had agents that would come to me with issues, like Tamika's situation or Craven's situation. But it isn't just limited to race. So, we have had, maybe a gay couple go to look at a piece of property, and the owner will say, I don't want that kind of person. These are my neighbors, and we don't want that type of, person living in the neighborhood. So, you expressed early on that this is, a bigger issue. Race is a huge part of it, but we also have different cultures. I've had people, who are very culturally, driven in their communities, and others come in and, they're not wanted. So it's just so broad. But I think that Rosalind, who we're so excited that she's going to be installed, on the 20th as the first African American, that we will have as a leader in our association. Brenda, you expressed it, Rosalind expressed it. It's so big, and how do you move this? How do you move the needle on this? And I think Tamika spoke to it, very eloquently as well.
Yes. And Craven, I give you credit for keeping your cool. I don't know if I could have done it. Honestly, you were so composed, and
You got to live on opposite ends of the spectrum sometimes, And I do not want to give somebody ammunition to say it was me. That's my number one thing. Okay, because it can easily be turned into me being aggressive or something like that. Yeah, I watch enough TV. You know.
April, did you
Yeah,
have
I did. I had a couple of comments, but I want to say to your point, you have to be cautious more so than your white counterparts have to. And that's why I think it's very important today's conversation, as much as we should explore other areas of discrimination, what I commend this organization for doing is not being afraid to talk about race. Right now, DEI work is very sexy in the city of Buffalo and our region because of the disproportionality rates of impact when it comes to COVID or the blizzard, and of course the mass shooting. But when people talk about DEI, they want to lend their conversations more to inclusion, or always to include women, which really they mean white women. And people are shying away from actually talking about the difference of an experience between a black person and a white person. So you and commentating that I just thank you for not being shy and trying to make everything about inclusiveness and make it flowery when we know those instances happen because these two people were black. So we just need to say that. And the reason why I appreciate being here today, this is really a treat, is there's so many caveats of advocacy for us elected officials when it comes to housing rights. I know that my colleague in government, Clerk Kearns, is a strong advocate for zombie housing, vacant abandoned housing, and keeping people in their housing. One of the first bills that I passed when I got elected to public office was the county's fair housing bill. And it was my personal experience being recently divorced years ago, being a single mother, going to look for a home for me and my daughter to rent when I first moved back from Buffalo after living in New York City for 10 years and being told, you probably can't afford your rent because you have one single income. The first thing that they saw when that they would ask me is, well, do you have Section 8? So those biases from landlords when it comes to renting. This is a whole new educational experience for me right now. Would you agree, Mr. Clerk? And the housing advocacy that we do at a county level, because I don't think about home ownership. And the reason why it's personal now is because I'm currently looking for my first home. And so now, I'm thinking of all of the policy stuff, like how are we gonna hold people accountable to that? This is not right. But I really commend you guys, and the medium that you're using too. People are nervous about having these conversations, and it's not because they want to shy away from race, but you just don't know where somebody is in their space. Making jokes about being targeted in a grocery store is not funny to me anymore. Right. It's not a joke anymore. It's not anything, don't go in that white grocery store. That's not funny. It's traumatizing. And so people shy away from these conversations, sometimes out of respect or discomfort. But when you present it in a medium like film, and you have familiar faces and you utilize your resources, you almost find a way to introduce the conversation in a comfortable, safe way so that more dialogue afterwards, like what's being generated right now, can happen. So I'm your partner on this. Please stay close to me in my office. If I have to leave out early because I have another engagement, please forgive me. But just know that we're already on housing advocacy at a county level. And what today has done for me is it has expanded my knowledge as to what else happens when it comes to discrimination, and we need to do something about this at a county level. So thank you all for your work.
For those people here, I just want to let you know that what we're doing right now is we are doing trainings in implicit bias, which is acknowledging.
Yeah.
We're doing trainings in the benefit of diversity, because people don't understand. But most importantly, something called cultural competency, which actually we're renaming cultural humility. So we don't know everything about, go to Charlene's point, we don't know everything about everybody, but we're teaching people, hopefully, how to start communicating and understanding that you don't understand, but to know that we're communicating. And so how do you react to that? All right, so Craven didn't like when he was on the stairs, he kind of was like, that, right? Because you didn't overreact. And so we have to understand that some people will overreact, some people will underreact. But as realtors, we need to understand how we're going to have that conversation, how we can stop bad conversations if we need to. So we're doing that right now at a state level, but certainly at the BNAR we have courses.
Beautiful.
Now, how often do realtors say, well, that's not me? How often do you hear that? You hear that? I don't do that, right? County Clerk Kearns.
I just want to add what the majority leader stated, and I just thank you for inviting me here today. As the Erie County Clerk, I accept and control all of the data for real estate transactions. So here's a few things that I just want to add to the conversation that we need to think about, that you know as realtors that we're in different times. Number one, we know that inventory is low, and that means that there's less inventory, there's less opportunity for people to purchase a home. So now there's more competition, we know that. With the renaissance of Buffalo and West New York, we're now seeing more investors coming in, which is creating more obstacles to people and to home ownership. And finally, with outside investors, we're seeing more cash deals. So before, with people of color were maybe facing obstacles, maybe it was redlining or maybe it was financing by the bank. So that was an obstacle that we're hopeful that we're can and will overcome, and we have 2 state representatives here today. I commend them for being here. So that's one thing, holding our banks accountable to make sure that we're lending. But to be honest, we have to also increase inventory.
Right.
And if we don't increase inventory, people are not going to have an opportunity to purchase a home, and with that increase of inventory. So we're seeing a lot of different intangibles. We're seeing a lot of different things that are happening at the clerk's office, but I just leave you with this. We hear a lot about the Renaissance, but who is the Renaissance for?
Come on, man.
And that's what we have to talk about. Poor April hears this all the time when I come in to speak about these vacant and abandoned properties that are sitting there, that we can move these things along and hold them accountable. So I want to thank the legislators for their most recent work on amending the Zombie Foreclosure Relief Act. They should be commended for that. But to be honest, we have to increase inventory, and we have to move things along, and it's going to have to be an open and honest discussion and dialogue about what's happening, inclusive of Erie County and some of the things that we're doing, some of our policies that we're doing as a county that we have to look at openly and honestly, because without the inventory, the prices are going to still remain high, which is great. However, it's going to lower opportunities for people of color, brown, new homeowners, first-time homeowners. So without those sales, people will not know the feeling of home ownership. So I just want to thank Buffalo Niagara Association of Realtors, Tamika and Craven, and all of the realtors for their courage and for giving me the opportunity to be here. And we will work continuously to do that. But my goal is to make sure that everyone has the opportunity to be a homeowner. Because in the end, you not only buy the house, you buy the neighborhood, right? So it's a really positive and a good thing that we're doing here today, and holding ourselves accountable and having this discussion. And congratulations. I was a little jealous on all the compliments you were getting on the way in today. Everyone was so nice and so open, but thank you for being here today. And I have full confidence that our majority leader, she will work very hard on this issue, but it has to go beyond today. Thank you so much for giving me a few minutes to state those facts.
I was just talking with Brenda yesterday. When you look at the housing stock, we know that housing creates wealth. And let's just call it what it is. The black community has been sidelined, disenfranchised for decades. We know there's no inventory. I am trying to put together, we talked about this yesterday, and we're going to reach out to our elected officials and the federal government to create a housing forum where we actually sit in a room like this, roll up our sleeves, and say, what are the laws that are prohibiting builders and investors being not individuals that buy properties, but build properties, the mortgage companies, all these issues, we have to tackle them to change. And everybody's talking about it, but we need effective change. So that's what we're going to be working on, and we're going to be reaching out, because Western New York is our home. The Realtors live here, they work here, you all live here. We have to make a significant change. And so hopefully sometime later this year, we can have a true working group with representatives from the mayor's office, federal agencies, the state. The governor just announced yesterday 80,000 homes a year for 10 years. We got to be a part of that and make it happen. Change the laws so that we can get people into homes that are affordable, clean, and safe, and that they could build themselves up. So that's the goal.
Karen,
Yes. Brenda, thank you so much for inviting me to be here today, and thank you all for confronting this issue, confronting systemic racism in your industry and in our community. I wanted to just bounce off of what Nikki was saying. Yesterday, Monica and I were in Albany. The governor gave her State of the State address, and a big part of it had to do with housing and housing opportunities for everyone. And we really need to make New York more affordable for people. And so I'm so happy to be part of any conversation that you want to have moving forward on this. I think it's really an important thing. Someone also said, I can't remember who, but bringing law enforcement into the conversation I think is an important thing. I think it's just it's a huge task. And April, you mentioned it, it's like people have to be open to the conversation. And I think that's, it's, we kind of live in, I hate to say it, but our area there is racism here. It's entrenched and it's been ongoing, and we need to just be open to that conversation. And thank you so much for your comments. I thought they were really powerful. So I'm here to help. Thank you so much for inviting me here today. It was really great. Thank
Thank you so much. And also I want to pay homage to John, who conceived the idea of the videos. After having some really raw conversations with people who've been through a lot, some people have felt invisible during their careers. It really hit us hard when we heard about that. And John came up with the concept of these videos. And they're going to keep going. These are 2, but we're going to keep rolling. And I open it to you for suggestions on who else should be featured. So it's ongoing, and if anybody has any other questions, please.
I just want to, can I make a comment? Yeah, I just want to, first of all, again, applaud all of you for this incredibly informative and thoughtful discussion, and congratulations, Rosalind.
Yeah.
Congratulations to Tamika and Craven for really highlighting this issue in a very thoughtful and compassionate way. It really it raises awareness in a way that's extraordinarily helpful. And I think the timing could not be better. Congratulations to you for thinking about this issue. I think this is a conversation that has to happen not only with law enforcement, but again with the public. With your colleagues, Karen and I were part of legislation last year that we passed to require implicit bias training for all realtors now when they renew their licenses, which is great. I think that will go a long way to addressing the issue with regard to people who work in the industry, but the problem is beyond that, as we've discussed. So, I applaud you because this will get this out there, and I thank the media for coming here so you can get the word out there to the public that, you really need to be aware. It's not always, I think sometimes it's expressly discriminatory, but oftentimes it's implicitly, unconsciously, so just raising your awareness. But your timing could not be more perfect because, as Karen just mentioned, one of the governor's signature pieces in the State of the State yesterday was specifically addressing some of the existing regulatory restrictions that we have that prohibit us from being able to build more housing and trying to find a way to streamline that process, to Nikki's point. So, we look forward to working with you. Things like, I know, they're not that popular with single-family houses, but things like accessible dwelling units and other ways of revitalizing existing inventory, the zombie homes, finding incentives for doing that, infill housing, all of those things are things that we should be thinking about. We've been looking to you all as really the people who know or on the ground and are experts in the area. Thank you. So thank you so much, and I appreciate having the opportunity